Hey everyone, it's Steven. Today I have the 2024 Volvo XC60. This is Volvo's entry in the crowded luxury compact SUV market. This competes with other vehicles like the popular Lexus NX, BMW X3, Mercedes GLC, and the Audi Q5. The XC60 is actually Volvo's best-selling vehicle in the US, kind of expected with the huge popularity of SUVs these days. And Volvo actually refreshed this in 2022, so not too many big changes for the 2024 model. Back in 2022, they did change up the drivetrains, so instead of the T5 and T6, they now have the B5 and B6. They basically added a mild hybrid system there to make it a bit more peppy on the acceleration and give it better fuel economy numbers. So for 2024, there really aren't that many changes, although they did drop the front-wheel drive option. So now the only way to get this car is going to be all-wheel drive. However, as you might expect, that also does come with a bit of a price increase for the 2024 model year. They also dropped the B6 powertrain, which is the more powerful one. So now you're stuck with the B5 engine, but I think it's plenty quick for most people. The 2024 XC60 is part of the second generation of the XC60, started back in 2019. So I do expect probably a full redesign is coming to this vehicle pretty soon. And I do think it is kind of showing its age a little bit, both on the exterior and the interior. So the one I have here is in the Plus trim. That is the mid-level trim between the Core, Plus, and then the Ultimate. And the Plus trim actually I think is the one to get because it gives you goodies like the adaptive cruise control, which Volvo calls Pilot Assist. That means it also has lane centering, and also gives you the 360 camera, as well as these nice 19-inch wheels. These look way better than the ones on the Core in my opinion. So the base XC60 Core starts just above $46,000. That is about $2,000 more expensive than the previous year's model, but that's because it comes standard with all-wheel drive now. And as expected from Volvo, the legendary safety manufacturer, you would expect all of the typical safety tech, rear cross traffic alert, blind spot monitors, and parking sensors on that base trim. Once you step up to the Plus trim, like I mentioned before, that one starts just above $50,000. And the specific XC60 I have here from National Car Rental is in the Plus trim, and it comes to an as-tested price of about $53,000. Comes with the heated climate package, which gives you heated seats and a heated steering wheel. All Volvo XC60s come with the B5 engine, unless you are stepping up to the Recharge, which is their plug-in hybrid version. But for the normal XC60, it comes with the B5 engine, makes 247 horsepower and 258 pound-feet of torque. That comes from a turbocharged 2-liter 4-cylinder engine with a 48-volt mild hybrid system. This engine gets you 0 to 60 times in about 6.5 seconds, which is pretty quick for a compact SUV, very standard compared to the German competitors. This also gives you fuel economy numbers of about 22 city, 28 highway for a combined 25 miles per gallon. This is all mated to an 8-speed automatic transmission with standard all-wheel drive across the entire lineup. All right, let's get into the exterior of the 2024 XC60. Starting at the front fascia here, this is kind of traditional Volvo. The one big change for 2024 is that you no longer have the bright theme. So Volvo used to have a dark theme and a bright theme for most of their vehicles, and you'll see that this one is quite dark, right? So first of all, the exterior color is called Onyx Black, which is pretty representative, right? It's pretty dark. And you'll notice that the grille and everything is pretty much blacked out, right? All of these fake vents on the side, everything here is pretty much blacked out. I do think it looks pretty good in the dark theme with the Onyx Black exterior, but I do think it would be cool to have the option to get some more chrome here. I do think it would look a little bit more luxurious, but you'll notice on the side profile, everything is blacked out. There's no chrome trim anywhere to be found around this vehicle. These headlights are very popular. They are Volvo's traditional Thor's Hammer daytime running lights. They look quite good. And as expected, they come with amber turn signals as well. You'll see the fake vents right here. That's very, very standard now. I feel like almost all of the compact luxury SUVs love putting something like that there to make it look a little bit more sporty. And then you do have real vents towards the bottom of the front fascia, and of course in the actual grille with the traditional Volvo badge. So I will say that the exterior is aging in my opinion a little bit because this has pretty much been the front fascia for the past like 5 or 6 years now. And it looks good though. I think it's an understated amount of luxury. Moving to the side profile, these are the 19-inch black alloy wheels. I think Volvo calls these the black diamond cut alloy wheels or something like that. They look quite good. You have these 5 V-spokes, which I think it's a pretty classic design. Definitely looks better than the 18-inch you find on the Core trim. You'll also notice that everything is actually body painted. So I like that the fender flares aren't these boring plastic pieces that every manufacturer is using. Volvo likes to keep it classy and use nice actual body painted metallic coloring. Coming around to the rear here, this has also been a long-time Volvo look, and I think it looks good. I think Volvo is one of the earlier manufacturers to actually spell out their brand name. Lexus has kind of copied them in their vehicles as well. I think it looks pretty classy and traditional. It is also worth noting that this B5 badge here is new for both 2022 up model years, and you got the all-wheel drive badge as well. I've kind of always thought that the Volvo rear taillights kind of look a lot like the CR-V, which is kind of disappointing because the CR-V is, I mean, it is a very attractive compact SUV, but it's not in the luxury segment. And I think sometimes, I feel like Volvo could do something different with their taillights. And I really hope the new redesign, hopefully in the next few years, is going to really revolutionize the look of this vehicle. Opening the trunk, you've got 17.7 cubic feet of cargo space with the second row up. With it down, you get over 60 cubic feet of cargo space, so definitely enough for what most people will need. This is a bit of a smaller trunk area than some of the other competitors like the X3 and the GLC, for example, but I still think most people will definitely be fine with this. And as expected from an SUV, especially a luxury SUV, you do have a power liftgate. All right, rounding out the rear, you will notice that there's not really a rear diffuser. I do like that weird texture thing on the sides. It kind of gives it a unique look, but this car is definitely not going for sportiness. You don't have visible tailpipes either, and the engine sounds just fine. Okay, let's go into the interior of the 2024 XC60. You've got power folding side mirrors as expected from a vehicle at this price point, and proximity keyless entry. Immediately you can see the inside looks quite good, right? You've got this awesome blonde color. This is kind of like a light gray, a beige kind of, I don't know, it's actually a really interesting color. And you'll notice the two-tone contrast with what Volvo calls charcoal. I really like that color, actually. I think the two-tone, especially on the steering wheel, looks fantastic. I think Volvo really kind of needs to step up their infotainment game because that is definitely one of the areas that's lacking. You see this now and you're kind of like, this doesn't look as great. Back in 2019 it did, but it's been the exact same 9-inch infotainment screen over the last few years now, and I really think Volvo could kind of spice it up by doing something a bit more, I don't know, maybe less traditional or a bit more flashy and honestly just larger. The actual infotainment system itself is quite easy to use. You'll notice that they don't have wireless Apple CarPlay or Android Auto. It is wired only. But what's interesting about this system is that it actually uses Android Auto. This will be very familiar for people who use Android phones, but I mean, the system just feels a little weird to be using it on a car, especially because other vehicles have such better systems these days. All the settings are pretty easy to find, right? And like you do have this thing where you can swipe down and look at things here, but like aside from this, like there's not much in this actual infotainment system. Apple CarPlay does take up the entire screen, which is pretty nice. I'll show you guys what that looks like here. But again, with all of these vertical screens, Apple CarPlay just never looks that great. It's definitely designed for a horizontal screen. To adjust the climate control, you actually have to go into these buttons right here. The car's not on, so I'll start it really quick. The actual start button is pretty weird. It's a little thing that you move to the right here. Kind of different, but I like it. But yeah, climate controls are all baked into this menu as well. Interesting quirk is that you can't adjust it by single digits. It's always going to be an even number, which is kind of interesting. If you want to turn on the heated steering wheel or heated seats, you do have 3 power way adjustability for that, which is kind of nice, but it's all on the touch screen, which just makes it not as easily accessible. So overall, Volvo really needs to do a better job with the redesign in the system coming up. This is definitely not a highlight of the vehicle. You've got the 12-inch screen here, which is the digital gauge cluster. This is a bit newer, which is kind of nice, and it looks very good. However, again, I will note that there's just not much that you can do here. It's definitely not as configurable as the competitors. Pretty much the only thing you can do here is choose to show Google Maps or not. There's really no option. So kind of weird. The actual steering wheel controls are pretty intuitive. This is going to be volume up, volume down, that's skipping track, and this is kind of just answering anything. You can also show the trip computer. You'll see this car is pretty much brand new, only has less than 1,000 miles on this vehicle. Kind of cool that I got it from National Car Rental, right? But yeah, otherwise steering wheel controls on the left side are going to be your adaptive cruise control settings. This is going to be your follow distance and choosing your speed and stuff like that. It does have Volvo's Pilot Assist, which means that it does lane centering as well, which is pretty cool. You do have this really nice classy texture, this trim along the entire dash area, which I love. They call it driftwood, and it feels really excellent. And the entire dash actually just looks super elegant. I love the chrome trim. I love the hidden Sweden flags around the actual cabin. I love the one on the seat that is actually colored, very, very cute. But yeah, the dash actually looks very, very elegant, and I just really feel like they could do something different here. Maybe change where these vents are, these huge vents, and you make the screen bigger, something like that. Also, these buttons here are just really unnecessary. I don't know who uses these, honestly, aside from maybe the hazard buttons there. You'll notice the center console is very interesting, right? You've got this pass-through for your drive select, which is actually really cool. I really like this, actually. It feels good and easy to use, so I'm glad it's not as complicated as some other vehicles these days. You do have that same driftwood decor on the center area here. You'll also notice they actually have a place for you to put your keys. Here are the Volvo keys. They look very, very cool, but they are large, so definitely a good spot to put them if you don't want to keep these bulky keys in your pocket, but they look sleek, and I like that they give you an orange and black one. All right, let's take a look at the door panels. So on the passenger side, you don't have memory, but on the driver side, you do have two-way memory, and you do have, I think it's like 10-way adjustability for both the driver and the front passenger as well. The actual door panels look pretty good. You do have some nice stitching on the armrest, and I just think it looks overall pretty good. The materials are also very excellent. Definitely feel higher quality than other competitors. All right, let's take a look at these seats. So I feel like the look of the seats isn't actually that great, but they're quite comfortable. They're very, very comfortable. These are the leather seats that come with the Plus trim, and I also do like that the seat belts are a different color. They're kind of like a silver that kind of matches the blonde interior. So yeah, these seats are quite comfortable. You'll notice the texture on these actually is quite different from a lot of other vehicles, but I think it doesn't look the greatest, honestly, but it feels quite good, and this was very comfortable for extended car rides here in the Chicago area. And now rounding out the front seats, you do have this nice storage here in the middle. It stays wherever you put it, which is always a nice luxury touch. And you do have two USB-C outlets here, but they are only USB-C, so no USB-A available. But again, you do have to have a wire because wired Apple CarPlay is the only option you've got here, and Android Auto. I do also want to mention the speaker caps right here. They don't look super great, but they're the standard 10-speaker sound system. It's fine. Kind of uninspiring, but I would recommend stepping up to the Harman Kardon that's available on the Plus trim for, I think, an extra $800. All right, going into the second row of the 2024 XC60, very important for family vehicles like this. You'll have that same blonde color and less charcoal trim, but you do see it on the door panels as well. So this is at the normal seating position for the driver. I'm not going to show you guys what it looks like in terms of legroom. It is quite comfortable. You've got a lot of legroom in this vehicle. You're definitely not lacking space in this vehicle. So I think people in the rear seats will be very comfortable with this. Headroom is great, actually. I feel like the headroom is better than most vehicles because, I mean, with this nice full pano sunroof right here, the rear seats just have a very airy feel. And I really like these large windows. You have a great visibility, and the nice pano sunroof just really adds to that element of luxury. Overall, these seats are just a really nice place to spend some time. You've got some nets here, and then you do have three-way heated seats for both of the left and right side passengers. In the back, you have a little bit of storage here, and then you do have another charging outlet down there. And you do also have, of course, an armrest as expected right here. This one is a button that releases the cup holders. Looks pretty fancy, I guess, but I feel like I would rather have just had normal cup holders here. All right, let's go on a drive in the 2024 Volvo XC60 Plus. So the driving dynamics of this vehicle are definitely not athletic. That's what I'm going to start off with, right? Like, this vehicle is definitely not something you get if you think that you want to go fast. It can go pretty fast, right? Like, you can probably hear the engine in the back there. There's no actual drive modes on this vehicle, so there's no like sport mode or anything like that, dynamic mode. It's just all comfort. There's an off-roading mode, which is kind of interesting, but aside from that, really the only thing you do is stay in comfort mode, and that's what I think most people who buy a Volvo are going to expect, right? You're not buying a Volvo because you expect it to be a BMW, right? I think Volvo knows exactly what they're catering towards and, you know, what their general demographic of their buyers is going to be. So they want to keep this basically just a nice luxury vehicle, very similar to a Lexus, for example. I think that's one of the best comparisons for the XC60 in general is going to be that Lexus NX. That's probably going to be the biggest rival in terms of just pure luxury. And it's kind of funny, right? Because Lexus has really been trying to market towards this, like, you know, F-Sport handling stuff on their vehicles. So I think that's kind of interesting. You can check out my NX350 review, which is a very similar vehicle, honestly, in almost all aspects, except Lexus has better tech now. And I think Volvo just really needs to get get that upgraded. So the actual ride quality of this is very serene. You are very glidey. Steering is super, super light. You can actually firm up the steering, which is kind of interesting. Maybe if you feel like you want to go a bit sportier, I guess. But yeah, there's an option in the screens to firm up steering. But, you know, no actual drive modes like you would see in some other vehicles. And I do want to take a moment and talk about the infotainment system on this 9-inch screen. So, you know, it doesn't look the greatest and it's not the flashiest, but it is usable, certainly, right? Apple CarPlay works really nicely, Android Auto works really nicely. It is really cool having Google integrated into the system. I'm literally using Google Maps right now, which is super cool. It actually appears in your 12-inch digital gauge cluster and actually kind of shows you exactly where you're going, which is actually super cool. And I think I wish all vehicles could just integrate with Google Maps because I feel like everyone uses Google Maps, right? So that is a very, very cool part of this system. The actual 360 camera itself also looks incredible. I'll show you guys what it looks like in the car wash that I got earlier today. It looks super cool. The colors are really great, and I think just overall the quality of the actual tech is really nice. The rear cross traffic alert works really well. Blind spot monitors work great, and just, you know, the parking sensors, everything works really seamlessly. Ooh, I do also want to mention that the Pilot Assist adaptive cruise control is very, very nice. Worked really well, handled curves perfectly fine, and really kept me centered the whole time. I will say the weird part is it doesn't tell you if you're centered in the lane. You know how most vehicles will tell you by, like, you know, indicating some lane sort of thing that you're in the middle? It doesn't tell you. So, like, after I've shifted lanes and stuff like that, I don't really know if I'm in the center and, like, it's actually driving for me or not. So that is a little weird. I do think with the inevitable redesign coming in a few years, Volvo will definitely change up their infotainment system and some of their tech, but I really hope they can manage to continue keeping that air of classiness inside their interior, because I really think that's where this vehicle stands out. And honestly, the exterior looks great too. I remember when the second generation XC90 came out, or XC60 came out, I was floored by the looks. I think and I still think it looks very nice. It, like, definitely keeps up its looks. The auto start stop engine function is very, very smooth in this vehicle. Transmission just glides seamlessly between all of the gears, and, you know, that's what you would expect, right? This is just a really nice car to drive. Like, I think just overall, it's just super, super quiet and refined. I will say there's a bit more road noise and wind noise at highway speeds, you know, more than I would expect from a vehicle at this price point. This is over $50,000, and I do think, you know, the GLC and maybe even the NX itself actually does better in that aspect, but, you know, it's a very minimal difference, and I really think the Volvo itself just gives you a very elegant interior. I think probably more elegant than what the NX provided, and you know, feels very similar to the GLC, I think, where the elegance of the interior and that initial aesthetic appeal is going to be higher than, you know, for example, the Q5. But yeah, when you're just stopped at a stoplight, it's very, very quiet, feels good. And, like, I didn't even feel that engine kick in. So I feel like the stop-start system is fantastic, much less intrusive than some of the other competitors. And, you know, it's also one of those weird things where, like, you can't disable it on this vehicle, which I think is super weird, but clearly Volvo has figured out a way to make it very seamless. So I'm okay with it. In most vehicles, there's a button, right, to stop it. But in this vehicle, the only way you can stop it is by shifting to off-road mode. So, I don't know, it's a little weird. There are definitely some quirks of this vehicle. Like, I love how you can't adjust the temperature by one. It has to be an even number. You know, I think it is kind of cool. Like, Volvo is a little unique, and, you know, as a Swedish brand, I feel like they're trying to definitely stand out a little bit from their peers, and they know that their record is really for safety, and that's really where their legendary name comes from. So they kind of go into that area, and they know that they're not really impressing anyone with their, you know, handling and things like that. So it's really all about just the classic luxury that you get from a Volvo. However, if you're really looking for more fun and agile handling, there are a lot of competitors at the $50K price point that are going to get you a much more interesting ride. Like the X3 that I rented recently was an awesome vehicle to drive. So it's really all about what you want at this price point, but I don't think you'll be disappointed by a Volvo if really all you're looking for is that luxurious ride quality and the elegant interior. So guys, thank you so much for watching my review of the 2024 XC60. If you want to check out some other videos, you can click up here and subscribe down here. Leave me a comment, let me know what you think about the XC60. Do you feel like it's due for a redesign soon, or do you feel like it's kind of more of a timeless look at this point? Personally, I'm really excited to see what Volvo will bring to the table in the future, but until then, I will see you guys in the next review. Thanks everyone, bye!